Hello everyone, so I'm back and alive with yet another great React tutorial, and in this tutorial we'll be looking at a components by OO. So what I have here is just a grid. The left side is scrollable, the right side is static. So I'll just show you the demo. When I scroll, as you can see, the color on the right changes, and at the same time this changes to reflect what color we are looking at. So there you go, that's how it is. And then in the middle, this shows how much of this item is visible in the viewport. So currently it's 100% visible, but as I scroll, you can see that it just decreases. And then you can also, if you are observing, the opacity of the component changing. So watch this one. So as I scroll up, see the opacity, it just disappears, and then this one, the opacity increases as it comes back in the viewport. And then I have this simple transition on this one also, so that it's not a harsh effect. So I guess without further ado, let's get started. All right, as you guys can see, I have a freshly baked code sandbox project. So there's nothing in it. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to just erase this because we won't need it actually. And before I do anything, let's go ahead and install our dependencies. And the only dependency that I need is styled components. Styled components, like so. So that has been installed. So with that installed, let's just organize the project a bit. So what I do is I usually put my components in a separate folder, and you guessed it, I call it components, like so. So that's our components, and within that we're going to create the rest of the components. So let's start with the main component, and this is going to hold the rest of the components, I guess. So main, and let's for now just return as we always do. If the keyboard is not loud enough, let me know, I can crank it up. And then back in here, well, before I do that, I need to export this out. So I'll say export default main, like so. And then I can come here and I can say main. And I got a nice error. That's pretty good. Why is that? Because I'm not importing it. So I'll say from components main. And that should work. Okay, so that's very good. Okay, and then the other thing I'm gonna do is just get rid of this. I don't need none of that. And that can really simplify things for us. So that's our app. So we'll close this. We're done with this one. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so let's go back to main. So as I said, the main will be used to host the rest of the components. And the way the structure will look like this. So I'll go ahead and enclose this in our brackets. And then I'll do this. I want to get rid of that for now because we will do it like this. So first of all, I'll create a container that's going to hold the entire main component. So I'll say const container is equal to style, give it to me, thank you, style.div. And if you watch one of my tutorial, I'll add a description. I talked about style components and how awesome they are. So let's create the container, and it will be a grid like so. Believe it or not, that's how simple it is. Okay, so that's our container. The reason why I put this in a grid like so, it will center everything very nicely. Now, the other thing we need is then to hold the panes. So we have a left pane and a right pane. So I'll create a pane container for that. And then it will be a style.div, same story. And I will just type in the CSS. Okay, so this one is done. Then I will come here in my container and I'll say pane container. Sounds like pain, like, pain. You know what I mean? Pain. Okay, so I have this here. Now there's nothing in here because there's nothing in here. So what I need to do is for now, I'll just say H1, I'll say left, and then we'll dupe this and we will call this right. So they're displayed and should I give, well, okay, just leave it for now. All right, so we have our left and right pane, and it would make only sense if we come here and we were to do left pane, and then you guessed it, we need a right pane. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go in the left pane and I will create a function, and let's return the same thing. We'll just say left, like so. And of course, kids, export it. Default left pane. I'll actually just copy this and slap it here. Okay, I need to make this right, and I need to make this right. I need to make this right. Okay, now we need to come here in my main, and I need to actually start using this. So I'm going to nuke this. Go away. And I'll say left pane, and I'll say right pane. There you go. That worked. Why is it saying? Why is left saying? Why is right saying left? Well, because left is not right. So we need to do this. Okay, that's spun my brain. So we got that squared away. So that's pretty cool. Now, the left pane, as you saw in your demo, has those tiles, so we need to start creating this. What is all this? What the heck, who cares? So we need to start creating those tiles, and I can come here and I can create a tile. Those will be displayed in the left pane and will be scrollable. So to create tiles, we are going to come here, and before I forget, I'm just going to do this first because I always forget. Woohoo! Okay, and then I will say function tile and return a tile, just a tile, right? Okay, I'll span you. So it's happy. And now I'll come here in my left pane and I'll just throw in a bunch of tiles. So let's, what do you say we do these? I like these. Okay, and I'll say tile, and let's create a bunch of them. Let's import it from whoa, tile. So what do we get? Well, we get a bunch of errors. And why is that? Let's save it. What is it saying? JSON wrapped in, oh, of course. You remember fragments? You know, that should work. Okay, so we got tiles, and look at this guy. This guy's like all over in the other area. Dude, you should be in here. Okay, we'll fix that. That's no big deal. So let's come here and start with the actual tiles so we can start styling the tile. So the first thing I'll do is enclose it in a, some sort of a, I guess, placeholder, and then inside of that will be title and blah, blah, blah. So I'll just show you code it so it makes more sense. So we'll say you could call it container. Honestly, it doesn't really matter, but I've been using so many containers that I ran out of containers. Style. Why it doesn't give it to me all the time? I don't get it. Okay, so I have style.div, and I'll give it a width of 100%. I'll just type in a CSS and we're gonna zoom through this. Okay, so I got my placeholder in, and this should be width. Yeah, like so. And the border radius is complaining. Why is this guy complaining? BORDER radius, like so. So we got a nice border. Now, if I look at my right pane, it says right. If I look at my left pane, it says that. If I look at here, we have this going on. So what's going on actually? Okay, so now the one thing you will be seeing is how the left pane, so it will display one, the next one, then it goes to the next. and it's doing that, so we need to prevent it from doing that. So we will go to the right pane and we will try to fix this. So to fix this, we will create a container for this, like we have been doing. Style.div, and I'll just type this in quickly. Okay, so I got the container for the right pane, and I will wrap this in here and in here. And this is just, we give it a height of 100 with a background of slate blue and a position of sticky so that it sticks as the page scrolls. All right, so now let's go to the left pane and wrap that in the container as well. So I'll say const container is equal to styled.div. I'll just type this out. Okay, so there you go. That fixes that. So now as you can see, they are nicely aligned, and they are actually responsive. So that's that. One thing I think I should do is fix this, spelling, typing too fast. So that's that. So that aligns the text. And I would like to have some gap between the columns. And the way maybe we can do this is through, what do you call it? Gap. So you can say row gap. The column gap or row gap? I always forget which one it is. Yeah, there you go. So you have this nice, thin line. So, I mean, we could increase it, but anyway, so we have that going on. So that's just the style of how it looks like. Now let's get to the meat of this thing. So the first thing we will do is we will actually create a spike on the hook. That will, we can tap into a component. So I'll come here and I'll create a folder. Let's call it hooks, in case you want to put multiple hooks. And within that, I will create the use visibility spy. Okay, so we have that. Now, to do this, we will be taking advantage of the intersection observer API. And I'll throw in a link in the description. You can read more about it on the MDN website. So to create a hook, we come here, and we say const, and then we will say use visibility. Oh man, visibility spy. Say a function like that, and of course we need to export it. So we'll say default use visibility spy, like so. Okay, so what we need to do is create the intersection observer object. And the way we will do this is we come here and we say, observers. So these are the observers who will be monitoring actually. And then we also let some subscribers. So subscribers will be a map. And I'll explain to you why we need to create a map once we get to the, once we start using it. Okay, now to create the intersection observer, you need two things, a callback function and a bunch of options. So let's create the options first. So options is an object, and within that you specify three things. So we will specify a margin, right? And that's the margin around, let's say if I were to use this page, then the margin will be, how much, the bounding box, the margin. So that's what it is. So I'll say, whatever, 30 pixel. And then for the threshold, so threshold is when you're scrolling the page and an element passes a certain threshold, then that will trigger the callback function. So for now, I'll just say 0.75, meaning 75%. So when 75% of the object is visible, then this thing is going to call the callback function. Okay, so that's our options. Now we need to specify the callback function. So we will say let callback is equal to, now what you get two items. The first is entries, the other is observer, I guess. I'm not sure, you can look it up. but we will just say entries. And what we want to do with this, we want to do something with it. So, we can just say, and you're going to iterate over the entries. And since it's an array, we will say for each entry, right, we do something, not dom something, do something. Okay, so we'll get back to this. But for now, let us create the function that we can call to get the actual intersection observer. So I will come here and I'll say const get observer, right? And this is just a function, arrow it. We're gonna arrow it. That looks like somebody's like, I don't know, yelling or something. I don't know. So we will do get observer. So we're gonna do the singleton thing. We don't need to create too many observers. Honestly, this should be observer because you only have one observer. So we will say if observer already exists, then you give me that observer. Don't create more. If it doesn't exist, then of course gonna come here, fall through. So we will say new intersection observer. There you go. That's the one I was talking about. And you provided a callback function, which we created up there. And we're gonna give it a bunch of options. And of course, don't forget to return it observer. All right, so that is going to create your observer, nice and easy. And now once you have that, then we can come here in our hook and start using it. So the first thing I'll do is, well, we also need to get a reference to the item that we're going to attach this to. So we will say, you will say, const item ref is equal to, and we will use the use ref hook from React. And let's just say it's null for now. Yeah. So that's one thing. Now the other thing we will need is some sort of a state to keep track of the visibility of an item and the ratio of how much it's visible. So to do that, we'll create a state, and that's just a React state. So we'll say is visible. That's one. And the other thing we need is the ratio, and we will call the set state function on it to set the value. So I'll just do this. Okay, so I'll say use state, and then let's initialize it to is visible to false. It's not visible. And let's just say initially the ratio is 0. Okay, now with that done, then since all of this adding elements to the map and observing, this is like a side effect. So the best thing to do is put all of this in a use effect hook. So I guess this is the best candidate for this. So we will do that. Now, when we want to call, if you do it like this is going to be called every time. I think I need to import it. This will be called each time. So what I need to do is I need to say, you know what, only execute this if a new item adds itself, then you execute yourself. I'm sure you guys know about this dependencies array. If not, then you can look it up on the React website. Okay, so what do we do? Well, the first thing we do is we get a hold of the observer. So we'll say get observer. That gives us that. Then the second thing we do is we get a hold of the item. So we say element is equal to item ref dot current. That's how you get a hold of the element. Now, so what we will do is if for some reason we couldn't get it, then just return. There's no point in moving forward. Okay, so with that all squared away, then you start observing the element. So we'll say observer dot observe, and what do you want to observe? Well, you want to observe the element, okay, the target. So with that squared away, then all we have to do now, remember I said the subscriber is a map, so every subscriber is going to have a callback function that will be called from here. And the way we do this is we say subscribers dot, since it's a map, so we can call the set function, and we say set this element and give it a callback function, right? Now what do you put in that callback function? Well, we need two things. Well, You can actually put anything you want, but for our purposes, we need to know if it's visible and how much of it is visible ratio, right? That's what we need. And once you have that, then you can just call your set state, right? And you can say is visible, right? And the ratio is your ratio. So this is the state, you're just calling that state. And now at the end of this our hook, we need to return these so it can be consumed by the clients. So we can say return item ref. We need the is visible and we need the ratio. So we need these three. So this item ref will be set, well, whichever element this gets attached to, they set this. I think I was spelling mistake. Okay, so now how do we call this callback function? Well, each time, this thing happens. So let's get to it. So then we will do like this. We will say for each entry, we're going to get a hold of the element. So we will say const listener is equal to subscribers dot get entry dot target, right? That's the target. And if we were able to, if somebody's listening, then all you have to do is you say listener and you just call it. Well, what do you call it with? Okay, so we call it if the threshold has reached more than, let's say, 75% or something. So we will say, so for that, we need to say const ratio is equal to entry dot. Now there's a name for it. I think it's called, I need to look it up. I always forget. Yes, it's called intersection ratio, right? And then you say if ratio is greater than some threshold, and you also pass in the ratio. Okay, I think I can throw this in a constant, so I can say const, and then we can call it threshold underscore trigger. I'll call this 0.75. Then I can come here. I don't have to, hardcode this threshold trigger. So what we're saying is if the threshold has, if the ratio has passed a certain threshold, then this will be true. When this is true, that's going to call this callback with the true value, and we will also get the threshold value just to see how much threshold it is. Okay. Woo. Okay, so if it didn't make sense, I'll explain it again. So we create the intersection observer with a callback function. That's going to get called every time the threshold gets passed by a certain amount. And we give it a bunch of options. There's a third option, which is to specify the root, I think. If you don't specify it, then that's your document. So you can specify actually another element if you want. It's no problem. And then every time an item is added to this hook, we call the use effect. We get a hold of the observer, we get the current element. We then add it to the subscriber map with a callback function, so that this will be called each time this gets called. Now let's start using this and see if whatever we're doing is actually right or wrong. So now we want to add this to every tile element. So we will do just that. So if I come here, now I have this, so I think I need to do something with this. So I will enclose this like so. Let's go this with Control F. No, that didn't really do anything. Okay, so I'll say tile, and let's give it a title of tile 1. And I think I can duplicate this. Oh, this is the actual tile. I don't need to do this. But that's fine. I can take this and place it in the left pane. Okay. Control F. No. Control A. Control F. Yes. Okay. I can undo this. It was fine, whatever it was. Okay, so I can then, since I'm passing the title in as a prop, I can do this, right? And that should title. Nope. Actually, what I can do is if I go to my tile, then I can create a title for it. Oh, that's why. Okay, so sorry guys, I had to restart the whole browser and everything because I don't know, for some reason it was acting up. But anyways, it's back up. So let's continue from where we left off. And then. As you can see, so I added the tile, and here's the tile, and I added a color of tomato, so that is visible here. And one thing I would like to do is just give it a text transform of uppercase, so that's nice and uppercase. And the other thing I see is the border. I don't like this, so I need to come here and I say body HTML and body padding 0, margin 0. So that fixes that. I don't need this. I'm not using this. So that will get rid of that. Okay, so now let's start using the actual hook that we so nicely created. So I'll create to my tile, actually go to my tile and add the hook. So if I come here, then I can say, we will dereference that visible and item ref and ratio, and we will say use visibility, use, oh, it's not giving it to me. Okay, that's fine. I guess we need to import it. Import use visibility spy from hooks, and that, there you have it, she's here. And the first thing I'll do is I'll use the ref, set it to item ref. So now we have a reference to this placeholder and we can start doing things with it. So, I mean, for now, nothing will happen because we're not doing anything. But the one thing I can do is I can say use effect again. No, it should be here. Okay, so I'll say, I'll add some dependencies. So let's start with visible. We say if visible, if is visible, then you console dot no man, you console dot log the title is visible. So that will tell us whoever is actually visible. So let's go to console. So title 1 is visible. Yeah, that is visible. That's correct. And as I scroll, let's see, title 1, that was the one. Well, I haven't changed the name, looks like, so I need to change those. If I go to my main, sorry, left pane, yeah, I need to fix these, title 2, title 3. So I can come here. Okay, so I'm going to refresh. And as I scroll, title 1 is visible, that's correct. Now title 2 is visible, then title 3 is visible. Beautiful. Title 1 is visible. Awesome, that is working great. Okay, so we need to now maybe start throwing in the ratio thing, and you will see a problem that we are going to fix. So to do that, I have to go to the tile and I'll create another style component which is going to display the ratio. So I'll say ratio, makes sense, right? Style dot span, it will be a span. Okay, so what do? I'll just type in some CSS. Okay, so I got the ratio thing good. And I can come here and start using it. I'll say ratio, and these are just components actually. So ratio, I need to do the thingy ratio, and I'll say ratio. So currently it's just displaying this huge ginormous number. So we need to do some math on it. So I'll say math dot float, right? So that's going to give me dot, and then we will say 100%, right? So there you go. So it's going to give me 100% visible, and then as you go up, it's decreasing, increasing like so. So as you can see, this is not changing, and this is the problem I was talking about. See, it's just like weird numbers. So we're gonna go ahead and fix that. So the thing we need to do is with the hook. So I'll come back into the hook, and as you can see, currently I've specified just one threshold. If you want a more nice control, you can specify a range of thresholds. To do that, we will create a function. We'll call it const build threshold list. See, function like that, like an arrow function. Okay, so what you do? Well, you create an array, and this is going to hold all the thresholds. Whoa. Okay, it's an array. That's one. And then we will say number of steps. So let's say we go in steps of 10 or 20. Let's go, I don't know, 10 steps of 10. Then we just write a nice for loop. I equals 0. I'll start with 1 actually. I is equal to 1. I is less than or equal to number of steps. I plus plus. Okay, so what do you do? We'll say, well, you say a ratio is equal to I divided by number of steps, right? And we throw that into the array dot push ratio. Okay, and don't forget to return the thresholds like so. Then I can come here and I could say build threshold list. Threshold list. That's going to give me a nice threshold. So the beauty of this is, as I scroll, you can see the threshold increasing or decreasing. Now it'll be nice if we can add a percent sign. That. So I'm going to save everything. Okay, so that saves everything. And as you can see, this is getting displayed pretty nice, isn't it? Okay, so I guess this video is getting long. I'll create another video where we're going to do the color effects.